On the evening of December 11, explosions rocked the Kacha military airfield near Sevastopol in occupied Crimea. Ukrainian drones struck and destroyed a Russian An-26 military transport aircraft there. Ukrainian drone strikes killed and wounded Russian military invaders. This is reported both in Russian pro-war public groups and by Ukrainian partisans from the Atesh movement. The Atesh resistance movement claims to have assisted the Ukrainian Defense Forces in this operation. In Sevastopol public groups, local residents complained about explosions in the village of Kacha. The Crimean Occupation Administration has not yet commented on the incident. The first to report the loss of the aircraft was a Russian telegram channel covering the lives of the occupiers' military aviation. Official Russian authorities have traditionally remained silent. But the enemy's specialized media outlets have made no secret of the truth. Crimean partisans further elaborated. The Atesh movement claimed that their agents had provided significant assistance to the Ukrainian Defense Forces in organizing this operation. Earlier that day, the underground fighters had warned that military installations in Sevastopol and Kacha were under attack. Kacha Airfield is used by the enemy as a military base for aircraft, helicopters, and drones. The 318th Separate Mixed Aviation Regiment, with An-26, B-12, and Ka-27 helicopters, is based here. The occupiers launched drones over southern Ukraine from this airfield. Kacha, the military airfield itself, had been attacked by Ukrainian forces at least 5 times before. This occurred in October 2022 and May 2023. And in September 2025, the Ghosts Special Forces unit of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense's main intelligence directorate burned 2 Russian B-12 Chaika anti-submarine amphibious aircraft at this airfield for the first time in history. The situation didn't stop with technology. Information about numerous casualties among Russian troops is spreading on enemy social media. Specifically, this concerns the killed and wounded helicopter pilots who were based at this airfield. The exact numbers are still unknown, as the Crimean Occupation Administration is blocking the leak of data. Earlier, Deputy Commander of the 3rd Army Corps Maxim Zorin explained how the occupiers are managing to advance on the front despite significant losses. According to him, the Russians are trying to ignore this. Long-range naval drones from the Security Service of Ukraine's Alpha Special Operations Center struck the Filanovsky oil platform, owned by Lukoil Nizhnovolskneft. This marks Ukraine's first strike on Russian oil production infrastructure in the Caspian Sea, a source in the security service told. He clarified that the strikes took place several days ago. At least 4 hits were recorded on the offshore platform. The attack disrupted oil and gas production from more than 20 wells it services. The Filanovsky field is one of the largest explored fields in Russia and the Russian sector of the Caspian Sea. Its reserves amount to 129 million tons of oil and 30 billion cubic meters of gas. Extracted products were exported via the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. On November 29, the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, which exports oil from Kazakhstan through a terminal in Novorossiysk, announced the loss of one of its remote moorings, allegedly due to an attack by unmanned boats. The consortium noted that this is the 3rd attack on its infrastructure. The Kropotkinskaya oil pumping station was previously damaged in February 2025 and the administrative office in Novorossiysk in September 2025. The Caspian Pipeline Consortium oil pipeline system consists of the 1,511-kilometer-long Tengiz-Novorossiysk main pipeline and a marine terminal near Novorossiysk. CPC exports oil from fields in western Kazakhstan and Russian fields on the Caspian Shelf. Oil is loaded onto tankers at the CPC marine terminal via 3 single-point moorings located 5 kilometers from the shoreline. SPMs 1 and 2 have been in operation since 2002, and SPM 3 since 2014. Recall, Ukraine's security service used Sea-Baby naval drones to strike an oil tanker from Russia's Shadow Fleet in the Black Sea on December 10, critically damaging ship as it sailed through Ukraine's exclusive economic zone, a source in the agency told. The tanker, identified as Komaros-flagged Dashin, was heading toward the Russian port terminal of Novorossiysk at high speed with its automatic identification system switched off when it was hit, resulting in critical damage as explosions ripped through the stern area, the source said. Video shared by the source shows large blasts at the rear of the ship. The source said preliminary assessments indicate that the Dashin has been put out of service. The SBU estimated the value of the Dashin at about $30 million and said it typically carried roughly $60 million worth of oil products on a single voyage. The European Union, the UK, Canada, Australia and Switzerland had previously imposed sanctions on the vessel over its role in transporting Russian oil and operating with its identification systems turned off, the source added. The SBU continues active measures to reduce oil dollar revenues to the Russian budget. In the last 2 weeks, this is already the third disabled tanker of the Shadow Fleet that helped the Kremlin circumvent international sanctions, the SBU source said. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Wednesday that American authorities had seized a very large oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. According to Trump, it is the largest tanker ever seized by the United States. The president noted that the vessel was seized for very good reason, but did not elaborate. A source familiar with the situation said the tanker was en route to Cuba, where the state-owned company Cubametals planned to sell it to Asian energy brokers. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed on X that the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the Coast Guard executed a warrant to seize a vessel used to transport oil from sanctioned Venezuela and Iran. Bondi stated that the oil tanker has been subject to U.S. sanctions for years due to its involvement in an illicit oil trafficking network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. She posted a video showing armed U.S. Coast Guard personnel rappelling from helicopters onto the vessel. Putler oil analyst Matt Smith stated that the vessel seized Wednesday, presumably the Panamanian-flagged tanker Skipper, was not being tracked for commercial purposes and likely had its automatic identification system disabled. According to Treasury records, Skipper is registered to Triton Navigation, a Marshall Islands company. In 2022, the Treasury Department designated Triton as one of the shipping companies critical to the oil smuggling network supporting Lebanese Hezbollah. The tanker's seizure occurred 2 days after an interview with Politico in which Trump repeatedly refused to rule out sending troops to Venezuela to overthrow President Nicolas Maduro. The Trump administration has been pressuring Maduro for months to hand over power to the opposition, including by reinstating sanctions and increasing the U.S. military presence in the Caribbean. Trump stated that the U.S. would keep the oil seized from the tanker, but was unsure of its destination and cargo, suggesting that reporters take a helicopter and follow the vessel to find out which port it was headed to. Experts interviewed by the Politico publication were divided in their opinions. Jorge Leon, senior vice president of the consulting firm Rystad Energy, called the seizure a clear escalation from financial sanctions to physical intervention. However, David Goldwyn, head of another consulting firm, Goldwyn Global Strategies, believes the impact on Venezuelan oil exports will likely be moderate, as most trade with China does not take place on vessels subject to sanctions.